Hi there, Miss C's first grade class. Today's mystery reading is a folk tale from Ghana in Africa. Maybe you know where that is. The title is Ananse and the Impossible Quest. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, but Ananse is this spider guy with the pot belly. He's the hero. One day, the king, who thought himself very wise and powerful, decided he was growing tired of Kwaku Ananse, the Spider-Man. He thought Ananse was getting rather big-headed and a bit too clever for his own good. No matter how difficult the tasks he set for him, Ananse always managed to find an answer. Something had to be done about it. The king thought long and hard and then had an idea. He summoned Ananse to the palace and told him he'd been chosen for a special quest. There are two very precious things that I wish to have, and I've chosen you, Kawaku Ananse, to get them for me. Yes? Said Ananse eagerly, excited about the thought of a new challenge. What are they? If I should tell you, the king replied with a sly smile, I'm sure it would be far too easy for you. So to make it a little more of a challenge for you and your great wisdom, I am not prepared to reveal what the objects are, only that I want them. If you bring them to me within a week, I will see that you are very well rewarded with land and gifts. But if you fail, I will kick you out of the kingdom. Kawaku Ananse was deep in thought as he made his way home. But walking through the forest, he saw birds flying around that gave him an idea. He stopped and called all the birds to him. I'm going on a special mission for the king, he said. I've always been a great friend to you, and all I want now is a small token of your friendship in return. Fly by my house, each of you leave one feather. Now, off you go, don't forget. When Ananse arrived home, he found his wife and son staring at an enormous heap of feathers. Don't just stand there, he said. Stick the feathers all over me quickly, as you can make me into a bird. In no time at all, he was covered in feathers of all shapes, sizes, and hues. He looked like the strangest bird you could ever imagine. His two thin arms were transformed into wings. As he flapped them, he began to fly higher and higher until he could see the king's palace in the distance. He flew into the royal courtyard and saw the king with some of his elders sitting in the shade of a great tree. So he perched on a high branch where he could hear all that was said. So I guess this is Ananse as a bird. What's that strange bird? Asked the king. Send for Ananse, suggested one of the elders. He's sure to know. I'm pleased to say that I cannot do that, replied the king, and he explained the impossible quest he had set Ananse. What a clever idea, said the elders. And what is it you want him to get for you? He must go to the scary house and get me the golden slippers and golden broom. Nobody goes to visit the scary house and returns, so even if he knew what I wanted, we would still be finished with him. This way I can put an end to him whatever happens. Ananse flew away to the sound of their laughter. When he reached home, his wife helped him to unstick the feathers and prepared some food for the journey, and then he set out on his quest. Ananse had been walking for a few hours when he came to a fast-flowing river. As he looked for a way across, he suddenly felt hungry. He was just about to sit down and eat when, to his amazement, he heard the gurgling voice of rushing water, asking him to share. You never know when you might need a friend, Ananse said to himself. He threw half of his food into the torrent, which slowed a little to reveal a line of stepping stones leading across to the other side. As soon as he had eaten his fill, Ananse crossed the river safely. Soon he came to the great, gray, scary house where the scary man lived. He banged on the door and was welcomed inside by an old man. The scary man didn't have many casual visitors, so he was particularly pleased to see this one. Why not stay the night? The scary man asked slyly after Ananse had introduced himself. Well, how very kind of you, said Ananse, knowing full well that if he was silly enough to sleep in the scary house, he wouldn't be able to come home in the morning. The guest room was dark and dusty, but in the middle was a huge bed with soft feathered mattress and a warm, inviting covers. Ananse got into bed and was laying there, pinching himself to stay awake when he heard the door open. Not asleep yet? The scary man asked. I'm afraid not, said Ananse. I can never go to sleep without a pair of golden slippers on my feet. I don't suppose you got any? Well, as it happens, I have, replied the scary man, and I'll go get them. So the scary man brought Ananse the golden slippers. Don't ask me how Ananse managed to get through the night without falling asleep, but as morning light crept into the window, he was still wide awake and he went down to breakfast clutching the golden slippers. The scary man was sitting on the porch in a very grumpy mood, which wasn't improved by an irritating fly buzzing around his head. I'll get it, Ananse said. He picked up the golden broom, which just happened to be leaning against the wall. Before the scary man could say anything, Ananse was running around swinging at the fly and catching the scary man with a few hearty smacks in the process. Then, grasping the slippers in one hand and the broom in the other, Ananse chased the fly off the porch and around the corner. Once he was out of sight, he took to his heels and ran as fast as his legs would carry him, away from the scary house. It took the scary man a while to figure out that he'd been tricked, but then he set off after Ananse, swift as the wind. Ananse could hear the scary man behind him when suddenly he found himself splashing about in the water, and he knew it was the river that he had crossed the day before. Please, please, he said, remember the delicious food that I gave you on my way here? Well, I need your help now. The scary man is behind me and will soon catch up unless you grow into a flood and slow him down. A quick flash, and the river became a great deep lake that spread towards the scary man and stopped him in his tracks. Ananse didn't stop running until he reached home, and then it was only to put the slippers and broom in a bag before setting off to the palace. The king was in his usual place under the tree in the courtyard, sheltering from the sweltering sun. He saw Ananse approaching with a bag that just might contain what he sent him for. But how could that be? I'm not sure I've got what you wanted. Could you just tell me what it was? Ananse was enjoying himself. With his elders all around him, the king had no choice but to reply that he wanted the scary man's golden slippers and the golden broom. You should have seen his face when Ananse took those very items from the bag. The king was hopping mad, but he had kept his word, and Ananse was given land and gifts as his reward. As Ananse was leaving, the king suddenly remembered the strange bird he had seen and asked if he knew what it was. Ananse thought for a while, ever ready with a clever response. He had sense this time to know that sometimes it is wiser to appear ignorant, so he kept it a secret. And I hope you will too. The end. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. There's Ananse bringing the stuff out of the bag, and the king like, oh my goodness. Okay, kids, going to read you one more of Aesop's fable here. This one's called The Bull and the Bullfrog. A young bullfrog was exploring the far end of the pond when a bull walked up for a drink of water. The bullfrog was amazed by the bull's size. He had never seen anything so large before. Excited, he swam home to tell his father what he had seen. Father, I saw the most gigantic animal in the world, said the young bullfrog. He was at the other end of the pond. Now, son, his father replied, everyone knows that I'm the biggest animal in this pond. Just watch me. The old bullfrog took in a big gulp of air and puffed himself up. Was that animal bigger than this? His father asked. Much bigger than that, said his son. How about now? Asked the father, puffing himself even bigger. I'm afraid he was much bigger still, said the son. Well, said the father bullfrog, as he sucked in as much air as he could, he couldn't have been much bigger than this. But he really was much bigger than that, replied the young bullfrog. Okay, son, watch me now. He couldn't have possibly been bigger than this. The old bullfrog began to puff himself up more, and then suddenly, bang, he bust into pieces. So, quite a story. The moral of the story here is stretch your arm no farther than your sleeve will reach. What do you think that means? Okay, kids, hope you enjoyed that. I sure did. Have a good day.